All right, let's cover the manual for the Liven 8-bit warps. We're going to skip all this early stuff that's not really important, mostly legal warnings and whatnot. And if you want to read the full manual, I'll provide a link to it down below so you can browse through it either while you're watching the video or on your own time. Anyways, one thing I wanted to cover quickly is the difference between patterns and patch memories. Patterns on this device basically refer to the sequencer, and it will contain a reference to a memory, whereas the memories are basically the different sounds. So for example, this is memory 1, and let's just change it to memory 2 so you can hear the difference. So you can see the memories are basically just different sounds that have been saved that you can call up at will. And the patterns are the sequencer data. So right now we're set to pattern 19, which sounds like this. And we can change it to a different pattern by just hitting pattern. And that, once it's finished doing its thing, it will shift into the next one. So same sound, but being played differently by the sequencer. Cool. All right. Other items on here, nothing too important, you know, changing the volume. I hope you know how volume works. I'm not even going to bother explaining to you. The other thing is the octave. So the keyboard range, the octave range on the keyboard. So you can shift through the octaves just like that. Very cool. And then I showed you earlier how to switch between the different memories and patches. It's pretty straightforward. So if you want to shift through different memory, you can hit memory, use the value knob to shift through them this way. You can also take advantage of these 1, 5, 2, 6, 3, 7, 4, 8 keys over here, and the 16 step selector here to select the patch. So you can see right now I'm kind of in patch bay 1. I'm going to call these patch bays. I'm not sure if that's a real name for them, but that's what I'm going to call them. So I'm in patch bay 1, step 14, brings up memory 14. Now, if I want to change the memory, I can use this value to go up to like 64. Let's say I want to skip that, I can use this instead. So I can go 4, 16 to get to memory 64. And then if I want to get to the last 64 memories that are accessible on this device, I just hit memory, and then I hit these till they turn orange, and then if I hit this, it should go to 120. Whoops, hit that, it should go to 128. And then, you know, if I want to go back to 1, you're going, well, isn't it a bit of a pain in the butt to hit memory 1, 1, 5, and then go to 1? Yeah, that is, but thankfully you can. Oh, that's interesting. I gotta hit memory first. Hit memory, you can go back and forth when you're that high up there or that low to flip between them too. Anyways, you get hopefully how that works, and that's what that section there covers. You know, there is no velocity on this keyboard. You know, if you're using, we'll try this later in this series, but you know, if you're using, if you're using a MIDI controller like, oh god, that is dusty, I need to clean that off, but if you're using a MIDI controller like that key step, it has velocity detection in it, but in this case, I can hit that hard or I can hit it very light. There's no difference. I got to use this velocity knob to control that, right? So if there's no velocity, it's like I'm almost not hitting the key. So that's if you need to control the velocity to control how the patch sounds and you don't have a proper keyboard that has that velocity control, this knob is an option for you, and we'll just kind of set in the middle there for this tutorial. Yeah, other than that, sweeping though. So this is kind of a cool thing, and there is more information on page 10 about this, which we'll cover on page 10. But if you want to, I'll just show you how to turn it on quick. Right now you hear all the key sounds. You can hold down. Function, I believe, octave. Sounds a little different, pretty video gamey, lives up to the 8-bit warp's name, and so you can either sweep it down or we can sweep it up. or turn it off. Anyways, we'll cover a bit more into that in page 10 because there were some interesting items there I wanted to show you. And the holding the keyboard. So if you're doing a tutorial and you're trying to do bad music while you're talking, maybe you just want to hold down a note. You can do that by hitting OK. And that's going to get annoying quickly. So you hit OK and the key again to turn it off. You can believe you can do it for a chord too. Yes. And you can either cancel them all individually or together. And if you put a bunch of notes in and you can't remember which ones they are, oh god, that doesn't work. Make sure you do clear cancel before you hit OK, because that will clear it out. If you hold down OK and then clear cancel, you're going to be awkwardly there in front of a small audience with a bad sound going over and over again. Alright, adjusting the sound, page 8. So, you know, let's say you want to make your own sound and you're stuck with this, and you just want to start from scratch. Well, you know, one of the things some people like to do, I like to do this too with sound design, is start kind of from the neutral synthesizer sound. Either there's two ways to go about it. You can kind of take a sound you like and then put your own touch on it, or sometimes when you're feeling creative, you just want to start with a bare sound and see where it goes. So let's go ahead and go with that route today. We're going to hit clear cancel in memory, and that should give us, so this is the bass sound of this device. And there we go. Saving patch memory. So if you come up with a cool sound like this one and we want to save it, we can go ahead and do that. We just have to hit function in memory and pick a save slot to put it into. So let's put it in the final save slot here. And done. Saved. So it's saved to 128. Alright, so we covered basically how the patches and the memories and saving them and resetting them works, at least on the memory side. Let's go ahead and change the synth engine. So you can see this comes with 4 different synth engines: a warp, attack, morph, and FM. And if you want to switch between them, you just hold down function. Right now it's set to morph. If I want to change that to attack, function attack for 2. And same for warp, function 1 for warp. And function 4 for the FM engine. And then your main dials for adjusting how the engine work is up here and for each whatever setting it's set to, it's going to tell you what these dials do. So you can mess around with these to kind of get things to sound different. If you want to turn aliasing on or off, let's hear the difference. So right now, how is it on? We got to find it on the menu here, alias noise. Right now it's on. Oops. Not much of a difference, at least for this memory. Let's try a different memory. All right, any different? Little bit. It's not too obvious. Oh yeah. Anyways, you can play around with that setting there. Turning the filter on and off. So let's cover the filter quickly. It's pretty straightforward. We find the filter right here. Function right here, we can see filter is active or not active. And then if you want to change the filter type, there's a low, high filter, and a bandpass if you push 6 and 7 at the same time, which you can see by the indication of the option between the two keys. And then if you want to change how the filter sounds, you have a couple of options for the filter right here. The filter cutoff and the resolution. That's how the filter settings work. So what do I have it set up again? So, dude, I had the filter on, I must. So the filter was on, I just turned it off. And what type of filter was it set to? I set it to, I think it was set to band pass. Let's try a high pass filter. Okay, you get how it works. That's how you can configure the filter on this filter. Okay, cool. So there's no LFO action going on, I don't think, right now. Nothing I can hear. Let's go ahead and change that. So you can see our LFO as soon as I probably jog this dial. It's going to start doing something. Nope. That's interesting because the pitch is almost all the way down. Rate is all the way down, so let's jog the rate up there. Now, so the rate controls how fast the LFO wave is going, and then the pitch is going to control how much of an effect the LFO is having on the pitch of the sound. So the rate is how fast the wave is going. So you can hear it when you ride it with your ears, right? And then the pitch is how much of an effect it's having to the actual sound. So you can dial those together to find something that sounds pleasing. Not that this sounds pleasing at all. Alright, we'll go with that. So that's how those two LFO options with the rate and pitch work, but there's some other options. So this filter one is going to be the filter cutoff, how much of effect the LFO has on the filter cutoff. So right now it's off, right? So it's just like if somebody was messing with that cutoff dial really fast. We're using the LFO wave to do that instead of me having a seizure trying to do this. So you can play with those options however you like to try to dial in a sound and start saving your own patches. Alright, let's cover the envelope generator. We have not done that yet, and basically the way it works is basically the attack is how long it takes for the sound to ramp up from nothing to its top volume. The decay is how long it takes to go from that top volume down to the sustain level. And then sustain is basically as long as you're holding the key, the volume, the patch will be played at. And then the release is when you let go of the key, how long it takes to drift off to nothing. And so if you want to control how this envelope works, these two dials here are your friend. Without shift being held down, they will control the attack and release. So for example, if we want the sound to hit in immediately, I can dial down the attack to nothing. It's right there. And then if I have a long attack, it's going to take a while to ramp up. And so you get the idea there. And then the same for the other dials. So you can adjust the attack here. You can adjust the release with this one. And then if you hold down shift, you can adjust the decay of the envelope and the sustain. So that's where you can control your volume envelope right there. Alright, let's give the effects a quick run through. So there's a number of effects options you have available. So you can run one effect at a time. You have the option of a chorus effect, a flanger effect, a delay effect, or a bit crush effect, or off. You have a number of different reverbs you can use as well. You have a hall reverb, a room reverb, an arena reverb, a plate reverb, a tunnel reverb, and an infinite reverb, and a tape reverb, or off. So there's your options around effects and reverbs, and when you're in an effect, so you can turn the effect on. So right now here, oh, I got the ARP on. Sorry, let me turn that off. Oops. So the bass sound of the synthesizer. Let's go ahead and play around with an effect. So let's turn on, yeah, let's do a chorus effect. What the hell? So you can hear it immediately. If you want to play around with the settings of the various effects, these two guys right here are your friend. You can control the speed of the effect and the amount of the effect being applied. And you can try that with different effects. And if you want to turn on the reverb, you can go ahead and turn one of the reverbs on. Let's try the arena one. And if you want to control the reverb, just make sure you're holding down shift and you can control the amount of reverb being... The amount wet dry signal is controlled. And there's this guy. It's a little in your ears. Reverbs. Maybe I'll turn the delay off. Give us a better sense of what the reverb sounds like. You get the idea. Cool. Let's turn that tape reverb off. Let's turn on a sweep again. So I believe it was function and one octave down to sweep down, and function octave up to sweep up. Ooh, that's fun. Okay, so you can actually control the sweep speed, so how fast it's sweeping up through the octaves. I believe that's what it's doing. Basically, to do that, if you hold down shift and the speed here, you can control how fast it's sweeping, right? So if I do dial it down to 1, it's going to be a slow sweep. Or maybe a fast sweep, pardon me. Let's dial it up to the max. There we go. Opposite. So the higher the number, the slower it is, which is not intuitive as far as I'm considering it, but whatever. So 1 is very rapid, and 7 is very long. I guess it's the sweep time, so if you think of it that way, it makes more sense. Yeah, and then there's also the shift, so you can control how much it's shifting. So let's go and hear what that sounds like. So also with shift held down, what's 0? Yeah, okay. So that's how you can control what the sweep sounds like. So now you know how to turn it on and how you can control how it sounds. Throwing fireballs at you now. Okay, sorry, I'm just having fun. Cool. Couple other things here. There are multiple voice modes. So right now I'm in poly mode. Let me just turn off the sweep so I can do, oops, what have I done here? Still in sweep. Turn off the sweep. There we go. So I can do chords, right? Because I'm in poly mode, but it does have a mono mode if you ever want to make mono sounds. So I can't do chords anymore. I'm mono, and then also if I hold down function, between poly and mono, you can see ARP. Push them both at the same time. You can turn on the ARP. And then if you want to control the ARP type, hold down function shift, and you can twist this guy. Now you're going, hey, why is this not doing anything? Well, a lot of the modes require you to hold down multiple keys. So you can shift through the various ARP modes through there under this guy. Now, the one thing other to note is if you are set to mono, you can control the legato speed. So for example, let's hear legato speed is set to 0. So if we crank that legato speed up under the same way I change the ARP, nothing happens. Am I in mono? I am in mono. How have I done you wrong here? Okay, I must have misdone something there. Basically, it will shift between the keys, the sound. So it gives you a little bit of way to adjust how your sound sounds like. You get the idea. So those are the options on here, basically how you can change the voice mode, what the voice adjustment does. So this setting, the shift setting here, has multiple options if it is an ARP mode or mono mode. Yeah, so that hopefully will help you there. Oh, one other thing. Let's say you make a patch and it sounds very quiet, or if it sounds too loud, you can actually change the patch level, the volume. So right now it's a little quiet. Let's say if I wanted to bring the volume of this patch up a lit, I can hold down function shift, and I can use this detune knob in shift mode to change the sound of the memory to basically boost the volume. Oh Jesus, like you can see there, I was a bit loud. It's still a bit loud. But it gives you some control over the sound, because depending on how you're using the filters and whatnot, it might be a little quiet compared to the other memories, or a little too loud compared to the other memories. You can adjust each memory's kind of overall volume using that functionality there, which is handy. All right, we're going to cover creating and editing waveforms. So this guy actually comes with a lot of waveforms already baked in. The first 64 slots of waveforms are set up already for you, and there's probably more than enough than you need in here. You got a bunch of saw waves, triangle waves, pulse waves, a whole bunch of different type of waves that are already built into this thing. You can use to select between your wave 1 and wave 2 for the various synthesizer engines on this guy. Now, let's say you need a custom wave for one reason or the other. You're not out of luck, because they give you basically 64 of your own user-defined slots to make your own waves, and I'm going to show you how to do it right here. So you can see here basically when you create a wave, you get 32 steps, and for each of the steps you can assign a value to each step, from negative 128 to positive 127. So the way I like to think of it is kind of like a graphing calculator, that if you got to think of like step 1 is right here, step 2 is right here, step 3 is right here, step 4 is right here, step 5 is right here. So for each of those steps, if you wanted to make a triangle wave like this, 1 is going to have to be negative 128, 2 is maybe going to have to be negative 96, or maybe negative 64, 3 would be 0, 4 would be 64, and then 5 would be positive 127, right? And then you would go back down the same way, where this would be 64, 0, negative 64, negative 128 down to step 6, and then you would repeat that for those other 32 steps to kind of make a triangle wave. If you wanted to do a square, it'd be like max, 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 and then down to minimal, 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 then up to max, max, max. So let's go ahead and kind of just do, a sine wave where we're going up and down evenly, because I think that'll be the easiest to demonstrate. So you're kind of doing a wave like this. That's a terrible, my pen wasn't working too well, but you get the idea of how a sine wave works. So let's build a sine wave. So to get into the wave editor, there's a couple steps you have to take. Basically, the first thing we need to do is hold function and wave edit. So we get into the edit mode here, which is good. And then when we're in the edit mode, basically we select which one of these user ones we want to edit. You can't edit the ones that come with it, so you only have 64 options here. So let's go ahead and edit. What the hell? We'll do number 1, okay? No, I'll go 2 because I already played with this under 1, and it's going to be the exact same thing I'm doing now. Okay, so once we're in under 2, we hit OK. And now it's saying, okay, you're editing step 1. So if we're going to do a sine wave, we're going to evenly go up and down, just like a wave in an ocean kind of thing. So for 1, we're going to set it all the way to negative 128. Then we'll go to step 2, and we'll set it to negative 112. Step 3, we're going to set it to 96. And you get the idea. We're just slowly going up in the value as we go along here. So you can see. And now I'm at neutral at step 9. Step 10, we're going to go start going up the wave. And I just got to do this for all 32 steps. I think this will make a sine wave. We'll see in a second here. It's not going to work perfectly, but it should be fairly close. Cool. So once we throw that all in and we're ready to save it, we hit OK. Then it's going to ask us which slot we want to save it under. That's good. So now we have it saved under user wave 2, and we should hear the sine wave. Should hear the sine wave. So that's how you can make your own custom waveforms on this guy. Now there is other options around it, but I figure that's enough. That's as deep as I want to go into it. If you really want to know more, let me know. But I feel like it's not something I'm going to get into very often with 64 already unique waveforms on here. I feel like I'll be covered, but it is handy to know if you're trying to, follow a guide to make somebody else's sound, or, following a cookbook of sound somehow. The ability to craft your own custom wave is actually quite nice, but we'll see. As we step through these videos, we'll see how much we already covered how to go through the pattern playback and how that worked. One thing that is cool is you can actually chain patterns together here. So kind of like song mode-ish, but it's not a full song mode. It's kind of like you can just chain a whole bunch of sequencer patterns together. So let's go ahead and give that a try. So if you hit pattern twice here, it turns orange. And then basically from when it turns orange, you can select a whole bunch of different patterns to play together and hit play, and it will change through. So you get the idea. Now we'll get out of chain mode there, back to the regular mode. If you want to make your own pattern, you probably want to clear what they have in here, right? As nice as that sounds, we can hit clear cancel and then pattern, and it clears it out. So if I hit play, you get a big fat nothing, but that's good because we want to play around with making our own sequence. So there's a couple ways to record a sequence. You can either do it step, or you can do it a live record. So let's go ahead and start with the step recording. So we can just push record, and it's basically going to light up what step we're on. Let's go to step 1, and let's just do a up and down the keyboard here. Very exciting. I feel like I'm at a spa. Okay. Anyway, all right. So if you want to live record, just hit record and play at the same time, and then you can play live, not a step. It's going to be kind of the same thing. So, two different ways to record into a pattern there, either live or by step. And then if you like the pattern you've made, you can save it. And so if you want to save a pattern, it's as easy as pushing function pattern and then stick what slot you want to put it into. Sure, let's throw it into 125 and hit OK, done, saved. And now 125 will have this famous awful pattern in it for the rest of the time until I get up to there to fix it. Alright, I'm going to show you how parameter locking works. Now, for example, right now, before I went into this, I was playing around a bit and was frustrated. The first thing you want to do when you're playing all parameter locks is make sure it's enabled. Without it, you're going to be trying to record parameter locks and nothing's going to go. So what a parameter lock does is, like, just hear this little loop we got going on here. You can see the chords are being triggered on step 1 as it goes through the various pages here. It loops back. So let's say we want to, like, modify how that initial chord sounds like, you know, but we don't want to change it for the whole loop. We can do that by hitting play, locking it to there, hold down step 1, and then let's mess up the cutoff for it. See? Maybe not the most pleasing thing to the ear, but you get how a parameter lock works. So for step 1, I basically have changed how the filter sounds for it with a parameter lock. And now, if I turn it off, it will just be normal. If I re-enable it, you'll hear it next time it comes along. So this can be used for performance, to mix up a loop a little bit manually, to play around just like that. And that's basically how you can record a parameter lock. So if I wanted to do it for another one, I can go to page 3 here, hold down this one, and maybe for this one, let's mess up the LFO. Let's mess everything up, make it really crazy. I've made it really bad because I made it, you can't even hear it, so maybe. What did I do here? Just completely pooched. Okay. You get the idea. Alright, so, you know, if you don't want to do it like how I just showed you, if you want to record it in real time, you know, basically have the dial moving up and around as it goes, we can do that too. So let's go ahead and try that out. So if we want to do that, we need to push function parameter lock, turns it orange, so that means it's like ready to do live recording. We push play to play the pattern, and then we can just change it as we see fit. So maybe let's ride the filter up and down. It's going to sound a little weird because the other ones I've already done. See how the filter's going on its own now? I've programmed that in for parameter locks beyond that as it steps through to kind of do that automatic up and down of the filter to give it a little bit more of a feeling. So, okay, beyond that, you can see how you can use a live record of a parameter lock to, you know, just move the filter around like that. Sorry, I went camping on this thing, so it's filthy right now. But anyway, on to the next step. So if you want to, I've already shown you, so if you really mess up a loop and you want to just disable the parameter locks on it, just make sure that word is off, and then none of the live record or the manual record is going to stick. Or if I want to turn it back on, just turn it back on like that. That's how parameter locks work. You know, if you want to clear, like for example, let's say, I think it was this one here that this just sounds awful. So if I want to clear this parameter lock, I just want to hold down clear and cancel till it lights red. And I am going to push, this is going to clear the whole thing. So if I hit that, it's going to clear all the parameter locks. Now I can clear the note and parameter data. I don't think I can just clear the parameter data from a single step. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if I hold down clear and, for example, we'll kill the chord in the third step here, and just hit that note there, it should kill the chord. There's page 1, page 2, and page 3 should be silent now. Yeah, so there you can see I've killed the note. So let's load this up again. There is a way to just clear the parameter locks data and not kill the note. So I'm just going to load up this pattern again. And there we go. Okay. Perfect. We got it back. So let's go ahead. Another lesson again, how to do manual parameter locks. I'm going to hit parameter lock here. I'm going to lock it to this step here. I'm going to hold this. And basically, I'm gonna have the cutoff of the filter go down to nothing, so we're not going to hear it, right? Step 1, step 2. Okay, you hear it a little bit, but I've basically filtered it out. So let's say we just want to clear that parameter lock I put on page 3, step 1. If I want to do that, basically I get the parameter lock to go red, and when it is red, I can then clear it, I think. So it says parameter log lit red. When recording parameters, only parameter data will be cleared. So if it's telling me if that's red and I do clear cancel on 1, it should be okay. Let's see. There we go. So it is possible to clear just parameter data. Just make sure your parameter lock is lit up red when you go. If it's not, you do that clear step, it's going to kill the parameter and the note. So there we go. Dig into the manual and it will lead you the way. I thought that was odd, and it was. Alright, so we are about ready to get into synchronizing the tempo. So what I wanted to show you is I'm hoping to team these two guys up as I play more of this machine. And let's go ahead and turn on the Volca sample. Right now, I got the sync out from the Liven here into the sync in on the Volca sample, so God knows what's in here right now. Okay. That's awesome. Okay. Well, we can just do an example of this. So right now, this should be the master clock. So if there you go, you can see the tempo is coming from the Liven 8-bit warps, and the sample is picking that up. Now, if I want to reverse that, it should be as simple as taking the sync in and using the sync out of here, and then if I mess with the tempo here, that's interesting. So sync out to sync in, it ain't picking it up. Let's see if we can fix that. So we need to set the clock source to sync. All right, let's go ahead and do that. So where is our clock source? So function clock source, and then internal. All right, MIDI sync. Okay, now that I've done that, and we hit OK. Let's see if that fixes our problem. Yeah. So that's how you can change your source for the clock. So let's stop because I would like to keep this as the main clock. So I'm going to go internal clock, and I'm going to source it sync out to sync in, and we'll hit. Cool, so our clock's good. But that's how you can change either use another device as your clock, or use this as a tempo clock for another device, just like that. You saw that there was MIDI options, so you can take the clock in from the MIDI in, but the sample doesn't have a MIDI out, so I'm just using these simple wires to go from the sync of the Volca sample, the sync out from the Liven 8bit warps into the sync in into the Volca sample, and they're talking the same language, so that is nice. And then if I want to play around the clock, remember it's just function clock down here, and then you can go into those clock options I just showed you. So pretty simple. There's more information on page 17 of the manual here that will go into it a bit more, but I think that's all I will do for this video today for the clock. We will look at the step sequencer and rhythm settings though on page 18 here quickly. So we're getting through this. I think we're almost at the end. Basically, we're going to go through this in the looper, and that should be it for the most part. If we want to change the sequencer mode, there's a couple options here. So right now, here's our sequencer modes here. We're in normal. So normal is just what you hear. It's regular mode. The steps are played back as they were inputted. Slice. Let's go ahead and set this to slice. Basically, this mode slices each step to the gate length. Even tie notes will play at each step. Let's see. Turn it back to normal, see if we hear any difference. It seems universal. Wonder because it's like a chorded memory, pattern. Let's see if we can find a pattern of a bit more going on than just some simple chords. Alright, here we go. That's normal. Let's put it on the slice. I'm not hearing the difference. Anyways, maybe random will be a little bit more obvious to the ears, because it just basically plays each step randomly. So that's a nice way to mix up the pattern a bit, right? So when this gets a little too boring, you need to mix it up. Alright. Maybe for other patterns it would sound better. And then there is a stutter mode. So the notes for the step buttons that are being pressed will be played in order in this mode. If no step buttons are being pressed, playback will occur normally. That's kind of cool. Lets you mess around with the sequence a little bit. If you don't touch anything, it's just going to do whatever it wants. And then if you want to go in there and break it down a little bit. I like that a lot. You can kind of mess around with the loop and keep it interesting in that stutter mode. I know stutter mode disables parameter locks though, so be careful of that. But this is a really cool performance tool, it's the stutter mode. Sorry, I can't figure out what the hell slice is doing. It says it's supposed to react to the gate. But I can't really hear any difference between that and normal mode, to be bluntly honest. So slice, this mode slices each step to the gate length. Even tie notes will be played each step. Maybe there's none, these patterns don't have tie notes. I'm sorry, it's a terrible demonstration for slice, but that's what it says. I can't tell what it's doing, but you can definitely hear what random is doing. And you can definitely hear the advantages of the stutter mode for mixing up loops. Alright, cool. So those are your different sequence modes. So we'll set it back to normal. Very cool. And that's about it. Basically, you can change the sequencer and gate time with this gate option here. It's pretty obvious. There's also swing that you can enable under it as well. So let's try to play with the swing for a quick sec here. So there you go. You can see how you can add a little bit of swing. Keeps it just a little bit less robotic when you throw some swing in there. So these are all things you can use to your advantage to keep your loops interesting on this thing, either for recording or live performance or whatever, or just having fun. I really like this thing. For the value, the amount of money you pay for it, it does have a lot of functionality. I'm very impressed with how much they put into this little box. And that's about it. You get the idea. You saw the swing there. You know how the tempo, I showed you that earlier, but you can... That's how you can change the tempo. And then if you want to transpose the keys, you can do that as well. So I hit down function, transpose, and we can change. That's another way you can play around with a loop to keep it interesting. Just quickly transpose it like that. Cool ways to play around with a sequencer right there. Alright, one other thing I wanted to quickly cover was basically how to change the pattern length. So if you hold down function and length here, you can then use this guy here. So right now it's just a 64 note pattern. And so that's just 1, 2, 3, 4. But you know, if I want, they can go up to 128. So if I wanted to make a full pattern like this, and then I can set it there and hit OK and play. Now it's going to have notes for the first 64 steps, but then I think when it goes in the back of the pattern, it's going to be just blank. So you can see I've increased the length of the pattern, which you can either kind of copy those steps into these and modify them, or build longer patterns than just the 64 that we're showing there, or shorter patterns too if you just want to do, for example, function, what was it, pattern length. Let's just drop it down to, you know, simple 16-step pattern. It's just going to be the one page, and that page is going to go over and over again. You got to stop the pattern, of course. I wonder if I'll have those other pages now that I've written over them. So that's cool. They didn't delete those out when I dropped about it. That's about all I got on the sequencer. We're going to get into the looper next here. All right, we are almost done here. The last thing I want to show you is basically how the looper works. And the looper is super cool on this thing. So I think most of the other devices I have, instead of a looper tracks, they basically have multiple tracks you can play on. If you think, I'm thinking like the Digitone or the Digitact. Basically, you have 4 different tracks, 4 different sequencer tracks they can play on. This is a little different. You know, you have the one sequence track. But if you want to add on to this, I can't jump into track 2, 3, or 4 to add in, you know, a bass line or drums or whatnot. But what it does have is it has 4 different loopers that you can take advantage of to try to mimic that a little bit. And now let's just go through that right now. So, for example, if I want to record this 64 note length sequence into one of the loopers, first thing I got to check is the looper length. So if I hold down function here and push loop, and I just, so there's the 64 steps there. Or wait, just one second. I want to hit length, not quantize. And it's set to 64, which is great. So you can adjust that length to however long the loop is you want to record. And then there you go. So right now it's set to 64. This is a 64 note sequence, so perfect. So the first thing I need to do is I got to hit looper here, and I got to pick a looper track. So I'll use this one. So 1, 2, and 3 are reserved for the Sonic, where this thing, it's the Liven itself. 4 is reserved only for the line in. So you have, if you don't have another synth or sound, you only have 3 looper tracks to play with. If you have an external instrument, or it can be used under looper 4. But anyways, so looper is set up there. As soon as I hit play, you can see it's recording up there into 1. So even if I hit stop now, the looper is going to keep playing. And I can turn off the looper there, or play, and I can play the sequence on top of it. But what's cool about that now is I can go to a different sequence or pattern. So let's go to 27 here. So. Alright, so I'm not sure what the hell that is, but let's load it into the other looper. Alright, how long is the sequence? I'm going to just turn off the looper for a second here. Oh god, what is happening? Looper, stop, thank you. Alright, because I want to record under 2 here, this pattern. I don't know if that's going to go well. So you can see there, I've recorded 2 loops into the looper. They're not well aligned, but you can see how you can build up your looper, which is kind of fun. So you can see you can stop them by that, and push play again. So you get how that works. Cool. And let's try it with the Volca sample here. Well, let's say if we want to record that into 4 here, let's go looper 4. So you can see I've just turned off the sample, so I've recorded that lovely drum into 4/8. So 1, 2, 3, go. still have one more looper and one more sequencer I can use too. So you can get a lot done on this one little device here. A little bit of a different workflow than working with MIDI tracks, but if you wrap your head around it, I can see it being pretty powerful. Making a mess. Okay, you get it. All right. Shut up now. All right. All right. Good. Silence. All right. I showed you how to change the looper length. You can also change the looper track volume, which will be handy, right? So go ahead and play them all again. So this is just the loopers going here, right? Can't really hear the drum from the Volca very much, so I want to turn up the volume of our looper track 4. How do I do that? Alright, so when I'm in looper mode, these main knobs will affect all the volume of the looper track. So for example, there's our drums, here's our bass, here's our kind of lead we got going on here. So you can do some mixing of your loopers when that looper is on. When it's not on, this is then once again going to work for your synth. If you want a kitten fighting over some badly looped things, there you go. All right, shut up. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I think that's about enough. There's some more options in here you can go through. For example, you can do looper track panning. So if you hold shift while you play those, you can do a little left to right pan with them. And you can also mess around with the quantize value of the looper. You saw that a little bit earlier when I went to function loop. There's the quantize, which is set to 64. You can mess around with that value as well to configure that. And I showed you how to do the looper length already, and that's about it for the looper. And we're pretty much through the functionality of this guy. You know, this is the external input settings here on page 23. Nothing too crazy. So, you know, when you're hearing this, if the volume is too low, I can crank it on the sample. I can also configure the gain coming in. So if I go function, find line in down here, here is the gain. I can crank it, or I can drop it all the way down. So that's one way to do some mixing with your line in synth. It's a little low, the volume right now, so I'm gonna crank it up a little bit here because this is max. I'm not sure if it's a sample. It might just be this sample is very quiet. Thank you, Kiryu. And then yeah, if you can also change the amount of reverb send. So if I go, because it is going to pick up on the reverb. If I push play, that's kind of cool, right? Because I go function, let's go to the reverb effect here. Let's crank the reverb up. Nothing happening, right? But I can change that on the line in, right? So if I go function, where is line in? There's the gain, there's the reverb. It's off right now. But I can apply, let's just turn the reverb, max it up. It sounds awful, but I can apply the different reverbs here to the line in, which is cool. Or I can have it not affect the line in at all. So there is a reverb control. You can use the reverb effect on this unit against another device, but you have to configure it under the line in options here. And I don't probably want the line in to be mono because the Volca sample is a stereo device. Oh, okay. Mono was off. Cool. And that's down here too, how to change that. You know, the MIDI settings, not terribly worried about it because there is no MIDI in, but let's just see. You know, we can set the receiving channel. That's okay. This was working as it should be. But I can also set the transmitting channel. So this is all controlled on their function. MIDI, if I can find it here. Where are you? Capture. Here we go. So receive channel, transmit channel, transmit CC channel, and then so there's all your MIDI options. You know, you can change to the program change on and off, control change, transmission on and off, MIDI clock output on and off, setting the MIDI out. So all the MIDI commands on page 24 here can be set by holding function, and where was it again? MIDI right here. You can go through all these various options here and configure them the value to. I'm happy with the settings currently, but we'll see maybe as I stumble through these next couple of videos, we might have to change some of that. And then there's just this saving and loading user data. So I think it is possible to kind of back up your programs and your memories, your patterns and memories onto a computer or something that can read in and out MIDI data. Page 25 and 26 cover that. I don't have the setup right now to demonstrate this, or I don't think I might ever use that, so I'm going to skip that today. But if you're interested in that, page 25 and 26 will be your friend. And like I said before, I'll include a link to this manual on the description so you can page through it yourself. For some of these things I'm glossing over if you do want that extra level of detail. And then there's some just system settings. For example, if you want to, there's an automatic power button or option. You can go function system, and so there's the tuning. You can configure the tuning, universal tuning. I'm going to turn this off. Sorry, that's really annoying. Automatic power. What is this? So sorry, looking at too many things. Tuning, battery. So this is the battery type. You can set it to alkaline, which is right now, or nickel, or lithium. So I guess depending, I don't have any batteries in here right now, so I'm not worried about it, but depending on the battery, it might, this setting can help it maybe reduce the interference to the sound, depending on what type of battery type it is. Then you saw the master tuning under tune here. You can configure that if you like. And yeah, that's about it. There's automatic power off is set to, so right now, no, not at all, or half an hour. So if you want this to power itself off after leaving it on for too long, you can set it here. I'm going to turn it to off because I'm going to be running this off a USB power, so I'm being pretty good with watching it, and I don't have batteries and I'm worried about wasting. So, but that's where you can set the automatic off to. And that's about it. Yeah, the other thing you can do is so you know this sync in and out works perfectly. If you're trying to do the same thing and it's not working for you for sending the tempo, you might have to adjust the polarity of the sync out or the sync in. You can do that under function clock. So there's a source, and you can go into these A out to adjust the. Let's see. Oh, pardon me. SIPO is the sync in. So if I go function clock, where are you? SI. So rise, fall. So I'm just going to leave it as is, but you can mess around with that under the SIPO for polarity of the sync in and the SOPO for the sync out. These are working great, but you know if it's not working for how you have your devices set up, check reversing those around. It may just be they're not talking the same language, and that might fix it. The only other cool thing that I wanted to touch on here is you saw when I was jumping around that basically, you know, for example, let's put on a pattern here so I can demonstrate this. Pattern, sure. Let it go. So if I touch not a great example, but you know, if I mess around with one of these, see how there's that big jump, right? What you can do instead of having these jump immediately, like so I think that's how it's set right now. So if I go function UI, you can see it's set to latch. The knob does not affect the parameter value until it's, oh, okay, maybe it was set to jump before, because that's what I thought. So basically, if it's set to latch, let's go here. So we load up another pattern, whoops. See how it's not changing until I get to 55? That's actually kind of nice. That's kind of the way the Korg, the micro Korg works, which I like. I don't know, I might play around with that. Basically, it stops you from making a really jarring change, which you'll see on the little outro I did. I think I definitely had jump on, so as soon as you touch a knob, it jumps right to that value. It's kind of nice to have latch on if you're playing around with these things. You don't make a quick, sudden change to the sound. You got to actually dial the knob to where it is, and then you can modify it. It stops basically going from a very high setting to a very low setting, or vice versa, to kind of to stop this thing from making drastic sound changes when you're just touching a knob to figuring out where it is. I'm actually going to leave it on latch. It was jump to be the default, but latch I think is going to work better for my workflow. Yeah, that's about it. And then of course, if you really mess this thing up and you want to restore it to factory default settings, you can go hold down looper here and press the power switch. That's going to come up so with a message on here that's going to say F first will appear on the display. You push OK. I don't want to reset this to basics, so, and then it will, but then now what the hell, I'll show you what the hell. So hold down looper, push power. All right, turn it back on here. I was supposed to do it while pressing looper, press and hold the, all right, maybe we need to turn it off first. I'm glad we're doing this. So press and hold looper, turn it on. All right, first. So if I hit OK, it's going to restore it to factory. If I hit cancel, it's just going to boot it up as is with all my other settings. So that's how you can do a factory reset. I think that's about it. And now we're in the appendix, where it's just showing you how some of these the synthesizer parameter list, and then we're going back to where we were. So we have gone through the manual, everyone. Congratulations. That was a bit of a slog. I shouldn't say a slog, but you know, that was a longer video than I hoped to. Basically, this turned into a full tutorial, but what else happens when you go through the manual? So I hope that's useful. Now that we've done the intro and we've gone through the manual, sorry this took me a little bit longer than I was expecting. I really want to start getting into using this thing to build some music. The first thing we're going to do next is, I did a little bit, I was trying to, outside of this video, I was playing around with this, loading in some video game tracks. I wanted to see how it could do for drum sounds, because like I mentioned before, I heard this thing kind of isn't the greatest at drum sounds. I wasn't amazed with what I could dial in within a couple hours of playing around with it. So that's where we're going to focus next, is can this thing do drums or not? And can it do them to the level we're going to need to make music? I'm thinking no, but we're going to prove that out first. The reason why I want to do that is we got to figure out how we're going to use this thing in our setup. And I think it's basically going to be a drum machine with maybe some silly vocals or little extra sound bits like to make things interesting. We'll see how it goes. That's how I'm thinking, but of course we're going to scientifically prove it out here. We're going to see if this thing can make drum sounds next or not, and that will give us a clear indication of where we want to use the vocal sample with this setup, because I'm thinking it's going to be a drum machine, but let's see if this thing can do it first. So that's where we're going next, and I hope you stick around and catch that with me, and keep enjoying this adventure with me. Thanks. Hope this is useful. Any questions or feedback, throw it down below. I'm happy to hear it, and hope everyone has a great day. I'll see you next time.